Hola, hola, buenas noches, bienvenidos al programa. Yo soy Jaime Bailey, estamos saliendo en vivo, en directo desde Miami para todo el mundo. Encuestas. A una amplia mayoría de estadounidenses le preocupa mucho la economía y solo a una minoría le preocupa la guerra en Irán.
Take a look here. Americans who say they care about a lot about the Iranian situation, look at this. It's just 45%. Just 45% of Americans say they care a lot about the situation going on in Iran. Compare that to the U.S. economy, which, of course, is the #1 issue right now in this country. We're talking 84%. That is a very, very high number. And this 45% number, only about half that and below 50%. So despite all the hubbub, right now we're talking about less than a majority of Americans who say they care a lot about what's going on in Iran right now.
Y apenas el 41% de los encuestados aprueban el trabajo de Trump.
The president's overall approval rating is the same. It's the same. It was 41% before the current war in Iran started, and it is 41% now. So despite, again, all the hubbub, despite all the critics of the president of the United States, what we are seeing right now is a president whose approval rating is steady, and this has not been a big deal politically, electorally speaking.
Hoy en la tarde, en la Casa Blanca, el presidente Trump confirmó que su gobierno está negociando con portavoces de la dictadura comunista cubana.
Cuba is next.
Cuba.
Is Cuba, whatever you do with the military there, it seems like something, will that look more like Iran or Venezuela?
Can't tell you that. I can tell you that they're talking to us. It's a failed nation. They have no money, they have no oil, they have no nothing. They have nice land. They have nice landscape, you know. It's a beautiful island. I think they have great people. You know, I know so many people from Cuba that were treated terribly and they're over here and they became rich. They're very entrepreneurial people, very smart. I know a lot from Florida especially. There's so many people. A friend of mine started over with nothing. He's now the largest owner of gas stations in the country and stuff. I mean, Cuban.
Trump dijo también que este año, por fin, tendrá el gran honor de tomar Cuba. Cuando dice tomar, quiere decir tomar el control de Cuba. Y cuando piensa en tomar el control de Cuba, quiero creer, déjenme ser optimista, que tomar el control de Cuba sería liberar a Cuba. Ojalá, ¿no?
A lot of Cubans have said, "Oh boy, would they love to go back." I think Cuba, I don't know, in its own way, if you know, tourism and everything else, it's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change. You know, they won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba see the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth?
El fin de semana, en el avión presidencial, Trump también habló de Cuba y dijo que él cree que muy pronto llegará a un acuerdo. ¿En qué consistiría el acuerdo? En algo parecido a la relación con Venezuela, o sea, que la dictadura comunista cubana acepte a cambio de ayuda económica un calendario de transición gradual a la democracia.
You're talking to Cuba. What do you want to hear from them, and what is that risk?
I am holding Cuba. Cuba's a failed nation. Cuba also wants to make a deal, and I think we will pretty soon, or either make a deal or do whatever we have to do. We have a lot of great people that happen to vote for Trump, not that that matters, but we have a lot of great people from Cuba that were violently and viciously thrown out of the country, and worse, their families were killed. And so we're talking to Cuba, but we're going to do Iran before Cuba.
Irán antes que Cuba, pero con suerte la guerra en Irán terminará en unas pocas semanas y Trump y Rubio podrán enfocarse por fin en Cuba. Trump dijo que los cubanos han estado esperando décadas, más de 6 décadas, casi 7 décadas ya, para recuperar sus libertades robadas.
And what is at risk?
You know,
for
people have been waiting 50 years to hear this story with Cuba. And when I left Palm Beach today, there were thousands of people on the road. I'm sure you saw them. And they were from Cuba and from Venezuela, all friendly, waving the flag and waving the American flag. They've been waiting 50 years for what's happening with Cuba. So I think something will happen with Cuba pretty quickly.
Hoy en la Casa Blanca, un poco más temprano, acompañado de la jefa de gabinete, Susie Wiles, que tiene un problema serio de salud, según reveló el propio Trump, el presidente habló también de Venezuela, dijo que la dictadura se está comportando de una manera fantástica, que hay una relación maravillosa y que Estados Unidos está sacando millones de barriles de petróleo de ese país.
It's been great. By the way, the relationship with Venezuela has been fantastic. Millions, literally millions of barrels of oil are being taken out, and it's been a great help, and it's been to their great benefit. The president has done a really good job. We get along with him really well, but we've taken out millions of barrels of oil and brought to Houston and other places for to the refineries. We have refineries set up specifically for that.
Trump no ahorra elogios, y esto a mí me preocupa, a la dictadura venezolana.
And it's been a great relationship, and more is happening. It's a tremendous oil source, and we're stepping it up very rapidly. The big companies are going in, and they will actually, numbers in a pretty short period of time, numbers that they've never been able to do, we'll be doing. There's a lot of oil under that land. We strongly encourage the other nations to get involved with us and get involved quickly and with great enthusiasm. I have that from a number of them, and I'd like to say their names, but frankly, I don't know if they would want me to or not, because maybe they don't want to be targeted. But I say, wouldn't matter if you're targeted or not, because this is a paper tiger that we're dealing with now. It wasn't a paper tiger 2 weeks ago. It's a paper tiger now.
¿Volverá pronto María Corina Machado desoyendo los consejos de Trump? Esto está por verse. Entre tanto, al final de la tarde de hoy en la Casa Blanca, el vicepresidente Vance, flanqueando a su jefe, el presidente Trump, habló sobre la guerra en Irán.
First, Mr. Vice President, Democrats are already calling you the fraud czar. What's your reaction to that title? And then second,
Good title.
Second, given
I like
your
it.
past skepticism of foreign adventurism, are you completely on board with the current war in Iran?
So I like fraud czar. It's certainly what we're going to do. And look, we have to do it. As the president said, this is a problem that has festered in this country for far too long, and far too few people have actually wanted to do anything about it. That's what makes this administration different, is that we actually tackle the problems the American people have been confronting. So I'm very happy about it. And look, I think that I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We have taken this military action under the president's leadership. I think all of us, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, should pray for success and pray for the safety of our troops. That's the approach that I've taken. Make it as successful as possible.
Pero a mediados del año pasado, Trump afirmó que Estados Unidos, al bombardear los búnkers nucleares de Irán, había destruido el programa nuclear de ese país. No fue así. Ahora se afirma que Irán tiene por lo menos 445 kilos de uranio altamente enriquecido en forma de gas en depósitos subterráneos de Isfahán y que no está muy lejos de la bomba nuclear, lo que explicaría la premura de Israel y Estados Unidos por atacar militarmente a Irán el pasado 28 de febrero hasta hoy, y la guerra continúa. Vance pareció irritarse cuando el reportero le recordó que él era escéptico, renuente, enemigo a comenzar guerras.
There's no hesitation, given your past statements, with the current operation.
What do you mean there's no hesitation with my past statements?
Given your skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were a critic of the global war on terror previously.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump to get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't repeated. Absolutely.
¿Obama fue un presidente tonto? No, qué ocurrencia. ¿Netanyahu quiso convencer a Obama para ir juntos a la guerra en Irán? Sí. ¿Lo logró? No. Obama no le creyó a Netanyahu la jugada, el ardid, el embuste. Y esto lo ha confirmado recientemente Tony Blinken. Trump promete acabar pronto la guerra en Irán. Estamos entrando en la tercera semana.
Iran, as you said, totally obliterated, got the missiles, got the first 2 rounds of leadership, Air Force gone, Navy gone. Can we wrap this war up this week?
Yeah, sure. Good.
Will we?
I don't think so, but it'll be soon. Won't be long. And we're going to have a much safer world when it's wrapped up. It'll be wrapped up soon. We're going to have a much safer world. I had an obligation to do this. I didn't want to, I call it an excursion. I didn't want to make this journey. We had the highest stock market in history. We had low gas prices. Everything was good. And I know exactly, I know what, you're going to do it, and people are going to raise the price of oil, and that's good. But I know that. But that's a very small thing compared to allowing them to have. You want to see a stock market go down? Start letting them hit you with nukes, okay? I think, I said it this morning, I think it's a very small price to pay.
En el avión presidencial, hablando sobre la guerra en Irán, Trump, que está frustrado porque Irán le ha cerrado el estrecho de Hormuz y eso dispara el precio del petróleo y por consiguiente el de la gasolina. El precio de la gasolina ha subido casi 30% desde que comenzó la guerra hace menos de 3 semanas. Trump pidió ayuda a otros países, China, Japón, Corea del Sur, Francia, Reino Unido, para que envíen sus buques de guerra a Hormuz, no va a ocurrir, a escoltar, a proteger a los cargueros petroleros que Irán ataca, no va a ocurrir.
Problems in life. We had some very good results today, as you probably heard, in Iran. Very strong results, militarily results. We're talking to countries about policing the straits because they are the ones, we don't get oil, very little, 1%, 2%. China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait. And nice to have other countries police that with us. And we'll help, we'll work with them. Militarily, as far as I'm concerned, we've essentially defeated Iran.
¿Trump podría reabrir en pocos días el estrecho de Hormuz? Sí. ¿Cómo? Desplegando tropas en tierra, principalmente en la isla de Jark y en los alrededores de Hormuz. ¿Eso sería peligroso? Altamente riesgoso. Irán podría atacar a los soldados de Estados Unidos en tierra con drones y con misiles. Por eso Trump no quiere hacerlo.
Militarily, it's been amazing. We attacked Karg Island, and we left just the one little area standing, and the standing part is where they have the pipes, all the oil pipes come in. And we can do that on 5 minutes' notice. We have it all locked and loaded and ready to go if we want to do it. But we chose not to do it. I chose not to do it yet. We'll see what happens. They want to negotiate. They want to negotiate badly. I don't think they're ready. Just on what I'm hearing, they want to negotiate badly, as they should. But I don't think they're ready to do what they have to do. But I think they will be ready at some point. But we're doing very well with respect to that whole situation in Iran.
Los reportes de inteligencia contradicen al presidente. Es verdad que el ejército de Irán está diezmado, pero la dictadura de los ayatolas, la dictadura religiosa, ha consolidado su poder. Trump dice que quizá Mojtaba Khamenei, el nuevo dictador, está muerto, que quizá ha perdido una pierna y que quizá es gay. Ambas tres cosas no son compatibles entre sí, ¿verdad? Quiero decir, si ya está muerto, no es gay. Si ya está muerto, quizá era gay, pero ya no es gay. Y si ya está muerto, quizá antes de morir perdió o no perdió una pierna, o quizá murió porque había sufrido una herida grave en la pierna. En cualquier caso, cuando Trump pide ayuda a otros países para escoltar los tanqueros de petróleo en Hormuz, da la impresión de que él no tiene, ni él ni Israel, tienen todo el control de la guerra, ¿verdad?
We are talking to other countries about working with us on the policing of the strait. And I think we're getting good response. And we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's great too. But remember, like as an example, in many cases, they're NATO countries. We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. As many, it's got an ocean in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor, which is just keeping the strait open. That, by comparison, it's small because Iran has very little firepower left.
Luego Trump se pelea de una manera un poco violenta con una reportera de ABC News y Trump insulta a esa cadena.
Put out a fundraising email a couple of days ago and is being criticized for using official White House photos of you at the dignified transfer. And the PAC is also promising access to secret.
Well, I was at the dignified transfer, unlike a lot of other
Do you think it's
people.
an appropriate email to send? Your critics are saying that you're fundraising.
I didn't see it. I mean, somebody puts it up. We have a lot of people working for us, but there's nobody that's better to the military than me. And all you have to do is look at the election, look at the election results, look at the kind of votes that we get, look at the poll numbers. There's nobody that's ever been higher as a president than me with the military.
Can you give a comment on the 6 dead soldiers? ABC News.
One of the worst, most fake, most corrupt.
Can you give a comment on the dead
You know what
soldiers?
ABC News? I think it's maybe the most corrupt news organizations on the planet. I think they're terrible.
No contento con decir todo eso sobre ABC News, le dice a la reportera que es una persona muy odiosa y antipática y desagradable.
Sir, you talked about selling oil futures.
5,000 Marines and sailors. Can you say
You're
why
a
you're...
very obnoxious person. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I wanted to ask if you talked about selling oil futures as a way of capping prices, trying to keep prices down at the pump.
The prices are going to come tumbling down as soon as it's over, and it's going to be over pretty quickly.
Do you have any concerns about the political impacts of this? I mean,
I have to do what's right. You know, political, I'm sure everybody has concern. I have to do what's right. I can't say that, you know, gee, I don't want to have any impact on oil prices for 3 or 4 weeks or 2 months, and we're going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East and beyond, right?
Y entonces Trump justifica la guerra en Irán diciendo que ese país estaba a las puertas de obtener la bomba nuclear, el arma atómica que Irán quería usar para destruir al pueblo judío. Con lo cual, si Irán estaba a las puertas, ya este año 2026, de llegar a la bomba nuclear, los bombardeos de mediados del año pasado a los búnkers subterráneos con material nuclear de Irán no fueron completamente exitosos.
Because, you know, they were going to blow up the Middle East. If I didn't terminate the Obama horrible deal, the Iran nuclear deal it's called, if I didn't terminate that in my first term, they would have already had a nuclear weapon, and they would have used it immediately upon getting it. And if I didn't send in the B-2 bombers to bomb the hell out of it and obliterate, and that's what it was, we obliterated that site and stopped all their potential nuclear. If I didn't do that, you would have had Israel and the Middle East hit by nuclear weapons.
Una pausa y regresamos enseguida. Bienvenidos de vuelta. Bueno, el presidente Trump anunció hoy que su jefa de gabinete, Susie Wiles, tiene un serio problema de salud.
Also introduce Susie Wiles, who's fantastic. She's our chief of staff, and she's an amazing person, an amazing fighter, and she announced a minor difficulty, which will be in good shape for, he'll be around for a long time. She had a diagnosis, you probably saw it, and she's going to take care of it immediately, as opposed to waiting. She said, let's do it now. I said, do it immediately, because with that particular ailment, the faster the better. That's the only thing I know about it. The faster the better. She's going to do it immediately. So she just started, actually.
Trump aseguró que la guerra en Irán ha destruido completamente las capacidades militares de ese país. Y si es así, ¿por qué no termina entonces mañana mismo la guerra?
Our powerful military campaign to end the threats posed by the Iranian regime continued in full force over the past few days. They have been literally obliterated. The Air Force is gone. The Navy is gone. Many ships have been sunk. They're warfighting ships, but I guess they didn't know how to use them. And anti-aircraft is decimated, their radar is gone, and their leaders are gone. Other than that, they're doing quite well.
Sí, pero no, porque Irán controla todavía el estrecho de Hormuz y hace mucho daño a la economía global y esconde bastante material nuclear que Trump y Netanyahu no han podido destruir ni confiscar o incautar. En cuanto a los líderes, no está Jamenei papá, pero aparentemente está Jamenei hijo, que es igual de malo. Por eso la guerra no puede terminar tan rápidamente, aunque Trump diga que han destruido a más de un centenar de buques de guerra iraníes.
More than 100 Iranian naval vessels have been sunk or destroyed over the last week and a half. That has to be some kind of a record. Additional strikes continue to launch from all directions every single hour. And as you know, we attacked Carg Island and knocked it literally, destroyed everything on the island except for the area where the oil is. I call it the pipes. We left the pipes. We didn't want to do that, but we will do that. We can do that on 5 minutes notice. It'll be over.
Luego Trump afirma que como Japón y China compraban muchísimo petróleo a Irán, deberían mandar sus navíos de guerra al estrecho de Hormuz para asegurar el libre tráfico fluvial del petróleo. Pero claramente Japón y China no le van a hacer caso a Trump, ¿no?
We strongly encourage other nations whose economies depend on the Strait far more than ours. You know, we get less than 1% of our oil from the Strait, and some countries get much more. Japan gets 95%, China gets 90%. Many of the Europeans get quite a bit. South Korea gets 35%. So we want them to come and help us with the Strait. We have it in very good shape. The countries, I said, we've already taken care of Iran, but now, because of the fact that literally a single terrorist can put something in the water or shoot something or shoot a missile, a small missile, and it's fairly close range because it is a tight area.
Por eso Trump no quiere desplegar tropas en tierra en la isla de Hark, ni quiere enviar barcos detectores de minas al estrecho de Hormuz, porque el riesgo militar sería altísimo. Y por eso Trump pide que otros países, digamos, asiáticos o europeos que tienen relaciones comerciales con Irán, vayan a sacar las minas. Tampoco va a ocurrir.
And the level of enthusiasm matters to me. We have some countries where we have 45,000 soldiers, great soldiers, protecting them from harm's way. And we have done a great job. And when we want to know, do you have any minesweepers? Well, would rather not get involved, sir. I said, for 40 years we're protecting you, and you don't want to get involved in something that is very minor, very few shots going to be taken because they don't have many shots left.
Entonces Trump quiere que los ingleses o los franceses o los chinos vayan a sacar las minas del estrecho de Hormuz y lo ridiculiza, impostando voces de tontos, de bobos, tontos y bobos, según Trump, que no quieren correr esos riesgos militares, pero son los riesgos que el propio Trump tampoco desea correr.
But they said, we'd rather not get involved. I just want the fake news media and everybody else to remember that that was said, because I've been a big critic of all of the protecting of countries, because I know that we'll protect them. And if we ever needed help, they won't be there for us. I've just known that for a long period of time, just like I knew about the Strait, that it would be a weapon, which I predicted a long time ago.
Le preguntan a Trump, ¿y por qué no declara la victoria y se retira de una vez de Irán?
Your advisors, David Sachs, said the other week that the U.S. should, quote, declare victory and get out of the Iran war. He also warned that if the conflict escalates, Israel may contemplate the use of a nuclear weapon. Has he shared that assessment with you?
No, he hasn't. Israel wouldn't do that. Israel would never do that. And, there's a theory. You've pounded them to hell, and you can just leave now, and it'll take 10 years for them to build back not nearly what they have right now. And I guess that's another theory, but we want to have it ended so that another president doesn't have...
Dice también que nadie sabe quién es el nuevo líder supremo de Irán, pero todo indica que es el hijo de Jamenei, Mojtaba, que estaría vivo aunque herido.
Mr. President, you mentioned that you're not entirely sure who you're dealing with, who the leadership is in Iran. Do you see a viable opposition movement still in that country following all of the protests that we had seen before the airstrikes and kind of an opposition movement that could become a viable leader in Iran?
Well, the biggest problem, and we have brave people in this room, but the biggest problem that I see is that, they put out a warning, and we have the warning. We get everything they get. And it said any protester that goes onto the street will be immediately shot and killed. This is a little tougher than the American way. This is not quite as tough as... nobody can believe it.
Trump reconoce que ha hablado telefónicamente con el presidente francés Macron y que le ha pedido ayuda, que mande buques de guerra.
Can you tell us if you have spoken with French President Macron about the coalition to reopen the Strait of Hormuz? Have you been speaking with the French President?
What does that mean?
Have you been speaking with the French President Macron about the coalition to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, I have spoken to him. He's been, on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd say he's been an 8. Not perfect. But it's France. We don't expect perfect.
Dicho eso, Trump todavía espera o confía en que Francia sí que ayudará a Estados Unidos en la guerra con Irán, que espere sentado.
Are you confident that France will help with the reopening of Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think he's going to help. I mean, I'll let you know. I spoke to him yesterday. I don't do a hard sell on them because my attitude is we don't need anybody. We're the strongest nation in the world. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We don't need them. But it's interesting. I'm almost doing it in some cases, not because we need them, but because I want to find out how they react. Because I've been saying for years that if we ever did need them, they won't be there. Not all of them, but they won't be there.
Confiesa que está muy sorprendido, disgustado con el Reino Unido, porque ese país no ha querido enviar buques de guerra al estrecho de Hormuz, a pesar, dice Trump, de que nosotros los hemos ayudado mucho en la guerra en Ucrania. ¿Trump ha ayudado a los europeos en la guerra en Ucrania? No que yo recuerde.
I was very surprised with the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom... 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally. And we spend a lot of money on, NATO and all of these things to protect you. I mean, we're protecting them. We're working with them on Ukraine. Ukraine's thousands of miles away, separated by a vast ocean. We don't have to do that, but we did it. Well, Biden did it. I mean, I have to be honest with you. Biden got taken to the cleaners. But we worked with them in Ukraine. We don't need to work with them in Ukraine.
Dice que es terrible que el Reino Unido no mande buques de guerra al conflicto con Irán.
And then they tell us that we have a mine ship around and they don't want to do it. I think it's terrible. No, I was very surprised. I told him, we requested 2 aircraft carriers, which they had, and he didn't really want to do it. And then right after the war essentially ended, meaning they were obliterated, he said, I would like to send the aircraft carriers. I said, I don't need them after the war has ended and won. I need it before the war. So I was very upset with, not upset, I was not happy with the UK.
Una pausa y regresamos enseguida. Bienvenidos de vuelta al programa. Cuba enfrenta su peor crisis desde que los comunistas capturaron el poder en enero del 59. La isla entera se ha quedado sin luz eléctrica por tiempo indefinido. La gente vive en condiciones verdaderamente infrahumanas, subhumanas. Es el país más pobre, desgraciado, castigado de toda América. En Cuba la gente sufre todavía más que, por ejemplo, en Haití. Dicho eso, se comprende que los cubanos estén hartos de la dictadura comunista y salgan a quemar el local del Partido Comunista en Morón. Lo han hecho hace pocos días, de noche, gritando: no queremos luz, queremos libertad.
Manifestantes irrumpen una oficina del Partido Comunista de Cuba en la ciudad de Morón. Entre gritos sacan documentos, computadores y muebles que lanzan una fogata en medio de la calle. Piedras y cacerolazos terminan de completar la escena de la 8ª noche de protestas en la isla caribeña. El país atraviesa una profunda crisis económica marcada por prolongados apagones y una escasez de productos básicos. La situación empeoró a partir del 29 de enero, cuando el gobierno de Donald Trump declaró una emergencia nacional y amenazó con aranceles a cualquier país que exportara petróleo a Cuba. Según el medio local Invasor, 5 personas fueron detenidas en la última jornada de manifestaciones que se desarrollaron tras un histórico anuncio del gobierno.
Funcionarios cubanos han sostenido recientemente conversaciones con representantes del gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
Yo creo que Trump tiene que intervenir militar y económicamente en Cuba. Creo que no alcanza con bajar con la fuerza Delta, capturar a Díaz-Canel y traerlo aquí a Estados Unidos. No alcanza con eso. Yo creo que Trump tendría que instalar una junta transitoria, una junta provisional en La Habana, encabezada por 3 cubanos admirables, ejemplares, que han triunfado en el exilio, en la libertad. Se me ocurren algunos nombres. Uno de ellos podría ser Ramón Saúl Sánchez, ¿no? Otra podría ser Rosa María Payá. Y tengo otros nombres en la cabeza. Y entonces me parece que Trump tendría que controlar todo el cuerpo de seguridad de la antigua dictadura caída. ¿Cómo? Bueno, que Estados Unidos dolarice de inmediato la economía cubana, de inmediato, que lleve miles de millones de dólares en efectivo a Cuba, que pague a los policías, a los militares cubanos en dólares, y que a cambio de esos pagos en dólares, aumentándoles el salario, esos policías y esos militares cubanos deban absoluta obediencia y lealtad a la Junta Transitoria. Solo de esa manera, si hay un gobierno limpio, temporal, y si los policías y los militares están bien pagados en dólares por Estados Unidos, podría luego, gradualmente, irse a unas elecciones limpias y libres en medio año o en un año, y entre tanto permitir que ingresen en Cuba las inversiones extranjeras. Por ejemplo, de muchos cubanos del exilio que añoran a su tierra y que desean volver. Hacer un pacto, un acuerdo con la dictadura de Díaz-Canel y Raúl Castro, yo lo veo con profunda, profunda desconfianza.
Por primera vez vez en 67 años, la revolución estaría buscando una mano de esa potencia a la que jamás pensó en pedirle ayuda. Imágenes compartidas en redes sociales muestran rayados en las calles que apoyan a Donald Trump. Luego de los ataques llevados a cabo por el gobierno norteamericano en Irán y Venezuela, todo apuntaría a que Cuba es el próximo en caer. La falta de petróleo y electricidad se ha expandido a todas las actividades cotidianas, impactando en los servicios médicos, la educación y el transporte. Las calles de La Habana llevan semanas acumulando basura, ya que los camiones recolectores no tienen combustible para funcionar. Cada vez es más difícil acceder de manera segura a agua potable.
Por eso han atacado al Partido Comunista de Morón no una vez, sino 2 veces. Decía que tengo otros nombres en la cabeza cuando pienso en un gobierno temporal establecido en La Habana con el apoyo militar de Washington, el apoyo económico de Washington, ¿no? Dándoles quizá a los Castro la posibilidad de que se vayan al exilio, ¿no? Mencioné a Ramón Saúl Sánchez, mencioné a la hija de Payá, Rosa María Payá, que es una gran defensora de las libertades. Tengo profunda admiración por Marcel Felipe, que hace un trabajo incansable a favor de la libertad en Cuba. Y recuerdo con viva emoción a un cubano entrañable, corajudo, indesmayable, Guillermo Fariñas, el Coco Fariñas, ganador del premio Sájarov. Y seguramente hay muchos más, ¿no? Pero la clave no sería nombrar a un gobierno transitorio de cubanos limpios, libres, sino que la policía, los militares, los cuerpos de seguridad, los antiguos matones, soplones, delatores, torturadores, que todos ellos estén bien pagados en dólares por Estados Unidos para asegurar que en este conflicto defiendan el lado limpio de la libertad. Videos del pasado sábado en la noche, en Santa Clara, Cuba, patrullas motorizadas, se ve que para eso sí tienen gasolina, ¿no? Saliendo a reprimir a la gente que pide libertad.
Este video, publicado el sábado por la noche por un vocero del régimen cubano, muestra varias patrullas y motorizadas de la policía que salen a recorrer las calles de Santa Clara para reprimir posibles protestas. En un país sin combustible para el transporte público o incluso las ambulancias, este despliegue deja claro cuáles son las prioridades del gobierno comunista. A pesar de la intimidación, el descontento volvió a escucharse en las calles. No en Santa Clara, pero sí en otros puntos del país, donde el cansancio por los apagones y la falta de libertad hizo sonar nuevamente las cacerolas.
Se me vienen otros nombres a la cabeza entre cubanos ilustres, ¿no? Otros nombres, por ejemplo, José Daniel Ferrer, largo tiempo preso político, ¿no? Un defensor emblemático de la libertad en Cuba. Y el propio Jorge Mas Santos, que es tan amigo de Trump, hijo de Mascanosa, ¿no? Lástima que no está ya Carlos Alberto Montaner. Él habría sido absolutamente capital, crucial, para liderar la transición a la democracia y a la libertad en Cuba. Los cubanos tienen ahora la gran oportunidad de emanciparse de esa odiosa y cruel dictadura que los tiene sojuzgados hace casi 7 décadas. Ojalá que Trump no les dé la espalda. Ojalá que Trump no se entienda de una manera mercenaria, crematística con la dictadura, como se está entendiendo con la odiosa Delcy Rodríguez, ¿no?
Según reportes en redes sociales, hubo una segunda protesta en Morón, donde la noche antes, el viernes, los manifestantes avanzaron hasta la sede local del Partido Comunista. Al menos 5 personas fueron detenidas.
Entraron a mi casa, incitando a la gente, como para que la gente se reviraran para tener problemas. Se llevaron a un muchacho que estaba en mi casa de visita, que se llama Josué Naranjo, Él es de La Habana.
Todos somos Morón, escribió la periodista Giovanni Sánchez al compartir este video de un cacerolazo en Nuevo Vedado esta madrugada.
Parece que tiene mucho miedo de que le vean su rostro.
En la mañana le impidieron salir de su vivienda.
Dilo.
¿Hay necesidad?
No, sí hay necesidad porque me está violando mis derechos.
Pero claro, este es el problema. Si Díaz-Canel sigue siendo el dictador en La Habana y si los cuerpos de seguridad obedecen a Díaz-Canel y a Raúl Castro, entonces no habrá advenimiento de las libertades en Cuba. No habrá. Porque el pueblo una vez más, como tantas veces, va a ser masacrado en las calles. Por eso es muy importante que Estados Unidos comprenda que la intervención en Cuba debe ser vigorosa y decisiva, no distante, no renuente, no. Una intervención militar, con tropas en tierra, económica, pagando a los cuerpos de seguridad de la dictadura, dolarizando la economía cubana, tomando control de la industria turística cubana y, por supuesto, disolviendo a los militares mafiosos del grupo Gaesa. Pero la dictadura, que es profundamente mafiosa, quiere hacer el trabajo camaleónico, acomodaticio, de encontrar un pacto de cohabitación con Trump, y por eso sale este señor, Óscar Pérez Oliva, portavoz de la dictadura, prometiendo relaciones comerciales fluidas con Estados Unidos y con los cubanos del exilio. No hay que creerle, esta gente tiene que dejar el poder.
Cuba está abierta a tener una relación comercial fluida con las empresas estadounidenses, también con los cubanos residentes en los Estados Unidos y con su descendencia. Y esto no solo se extiende al ámbito comercial, también es aplicable en el ámbito de las inversiones. Inversiones no solo vistas como inversiones pequeñas, sino también grandes inversiones, en particular, por ejemplo, en infraestructuras.
¿Y quién va a querer invertir en Cuba si la isla sigue controlada por los comunistas? Si no hay ninguna garantía jurídicas, legales, si no hay un gobierno bien intencionado, de gente honorable, no el gobierno de los rufianes, los canallas y los bribones de siempre. Esa gente se tiene que ir pronto, cuanto antes. Ya regresamos. Hace muy pocos meses en Ginebra, Suiza, el yerno de Trump, Jared Kushner, y el íntimo amigo de Trump, Steve Witkoff, negociaban con el jefe de la diplomacia iraní sobre un posible acuerdo nuclear. Kushner y Witkoff le decían al negociador iraní que Irán tenía que destruir todo su uranio enriquecido y renunciar para siempre a la bomba atómica. Pero la percepción de Kushner y Witkoff es que el negociador iraní los tonteaba, los embaucaba, los embromaba y trataba de ganar tiempo. Ahora el negociador iraní se confiesa muy sorprendido por la guerra.
El doctor Majid Tahravanchi, número 2 de Exteriores en el gobierno de Masoud Pezeshkian, es uno de los pocos que puede hablar en primera persona de las últimas negociaciones sobre el programa nuclear. Porque solo 2 días antes de que empezara la guerra, estaba en Ginebra, sentado frente al yerno de Trump, Jared Kushner, y el enviado de Estados Unidos para Oriente Próximo, Steve Witkoff. Todos se despidieron satisfechos de la última reunión.
They were happy. What happened between Thursday night?
¿Qué pasó entonces entre la noche del jueves y la mañana del sábado cuando Estados Unidos nos atacó? Es algo, dice, que la administración Trump aún no ha explicado a sus ciudadanos.
Dice que si China, Francia, Reino Unido mandan barcos de guerra al estrecho de Hormuz, entrarán en guerra con Irán.
Le preguntamos qué pasaría si países como China, Francia o Reino Unido ceden a las presiones de Trump para escoltar sus barcos en el estrecho de Hormuz. Cualquiera que coopere con América o Israel en contra de nosotros deberá asumir las consecuencias, contesta. El estrecho de Hormuz está abierto. Pero no permitiremos que nuestros enemigos se beneficien de él. Trump pone la espada e Irán la pared. Y en medio de ambos está la comunidad internacional. La Unión Europea calla sobre los derechos humanos que se están violando. No está tomando una posición justa.
Un lobo disfrazado de oveja. Ya regresamos.